As a matter of fact, I remember when I was baptized, the preacher said as he raised his hand to baptize me, he says, in obedience to the great head of the church. We was talking about the Pope. Right. The great head of the church. And sometimes he had to look, I baptize you, my sister, my brother. He had to figure out which one you were. And mentioning baptized, one day my little sister younger than me, we baptized her so much while Mama was gone to town. And Mama came back and took her in her arms. Mama thought she was having a seizure or something. She thought, you baptized me too? She's ready to go. She was easy to baptize. She was little. We just dunked up. She thought it was time to be baptized again. Let us continue now. So I mention this because there's a direct connection between catharsis and Catholic. And in the field of psychology, catharsis is commonly used, give you an experience that is in itself similar to what you're suffering from. And you can identify in it, and you go through that experience, and you feel better after it. You're just going through it in your mind, but you feel better after it. How many times do we Muslims come to a meeting, Jummah, whatever? We listen, let's deal with the Arabic. We listen to the brother lead the prayer, he recited in Arabic, and we feel so good. We don't know what he said, but we feel good. I know this is the truth, not because only of my own experience. I remember before I learned anything in Arabic, Imam Mohammed told us that just if you listen to the Al-Fatiha, it'll do you some good. He said, stand in line next to your brother and listening to it will do you some good. So just that should not be the limit of your good just because you heard it and you said that's beautiful. Oh, praises due to Allah. You should then want to go further so that you can actually implement this. You go through the genetic process, study the genetic process, and see what is it I can apply out of this Al-Fatiha. Let's just say Al-Fatiha that will help me. And if this were not true, that this experience would help us, then we would not be required to recite the Al-Fatiha in every rak'ah prayer. It doesn't say you got to understand it, but in order to pray, you have to recite the Al-Fatiha in every rak'ah prayer. Only time you excuse from reciting the Al-Fatiha in completion is if you're rushed, such as an enemy is after you or something. Then you can just say Bismillah and go on. But the implication is that you were talking about the Al-Fatiha, and I'm not suggesting to you, I'll just say the Bismillah. No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. And I'm not going up to it when you get confronted about it in the judgment. You on your own. All right. I'm just telling you what some of the scholars say. The scholars say that if you're in a rush, you can do that. Actually, this founded in the Quran because the Quran tells us that we can pray on foot. If the stress is such. But it said, as soon as you're safe, then you return to the prayer in its proper form. That's right. So the spiritual genome is the complete set of spiritual information on the makeup of the human spirituality. As noted in the Holy Quran, this information is sequentially encoded in the ayah. Ayah is the plural of ayat. All right. Ayah, long first syllable. Ayah of the Quran. And each ayat contains words called kalima, or word. Kalima Allah is words of Allah, word of Allah. When we study the word, break it down into, as I mentioned in the Arabic class, break it down into its smallest parts and get to the root word. That's when we're going to get the real information. Let's see what does my cell phone have to say now. Okay, so the definition of the terms then, if we can stretch our minds and compare look at the physical and see that there's a spiritual comparison that we call a metaphor or simile. And Allah says in the Quran that He does not fail to use the similitude of things highest as well as lowest. So Agin is not up here making up stuff. We are trying to follow the Quran in this presentation. Our experiences have been such that we have been satisfied to hear someone give a good presentation and go home and feel good. But that time is over now. We have to each be able to, not that we don't assemble, but we have to be able to take that message and put work in our own lives. So much so until that truth that we talked about, you hear it, you accept it, you live it. And when you live it, guess what? You don't have to mouth it so much because people will see it. People will see it. I don't know who he is or who she is, but how you do? You know, they just want to speak to you. That happened to me just this past weekend. I know it was a love stop in Matson, Missouri, and the people off the megabus were there, and two people were standing. I got off. I had to go to the washroom before I pumped gas. I got out. And I'm going to, and these two people, a man and a woman, were standing there, and they were together. It was obviously together. And now you know I'm not that good looking, except to my wife. But the lady said, "How you do, sir?" Yeah, just because now she saw a light that was different from what how you do, sir? And they spoke to me again when I came out. He spoke when I came out. Spoke to me again when I came out. Just because they see. Now, if people are living around you and they begin to know you and know what you stand for, then that message is affecting them also. And let them have the cathartic experience and you be the presenter of the catharsis. If we will be observant of this in our behavior and see what it is that we are doing, instead of just being satisfied to be Muslims and say assalamu alaikum to each other and then not present that same message to others, we will realize that we are obligated to be affective, not effective. There's two different words. Effective means you cause something to happen. Affective means you have on the feelings. You have an effect on the feelings. So affect and effect are not the exact same. They're similar, but effect is more of a physical nature, whereas affect is of the mental or spiritual level. So we want to have an affective relationship with people as opposed to just a physical. Having said that, we can logically conclude that the body of spiritual knowledge we require, in the body of spiritual knowledge that's required for our body types, and then we're talking about our spiritual body type now, is to be expressed or manifested in a physical domain. You can't have this spirituality and I don't have a physical body to do it in. You got to have a physical domain. So the spirit, our spirit, has to have a body. Right. It's not something that just, I'm just spiritual. No, whatever spirituality that there is in you should manifest in your physical behavior. And that physical behavior, if it's regular enough, and it should be, because we should be like this all the time, if it's regular enough, then what will happen? People will begin to know you by your works. So not by what you say, but you know the old saying, heard the old saying, say, what you are, speak so loud, I can't hear a word you're saying. That's the way we should be. We should be our identity as believers and worshipers of Allah should be so loud until we don't have to say to anybody who we are. They may not know the name, but they know something that they either like or at least respect. We will get a better understanding of life as we proceed in this direction. Most of you are being very studious about the study of the Quranic language. We say Arabic language, but it is better known as Quranic language, all right? Because as Imam Mohammed pointed out to us, that there are words that did not exist in the Arabic language before the revelation of the Quran. When the Quran was revealed, it was sent down to a man. And that man manifested the message, or messages, or message, however you want to, in the whole body of knowledge is one message, and then there are many messages that make up that master message. But it was manifested in Prophet Muhammad so thoroughly until his wife, when after he had passed, they were asking about him. Tell us, who was the messenger? And she reported that he was the Quran walking. Don't you know that it's obligatory upon us to strive to be the Quran walking? Not just somebody with a kufi cap on, but be the Quran walking, meaning how you treat people. Imam Mohammed gave us a great teaching once that I don't know how many of us are conscious of it now. Most of us evidently seem to be making good behavior because good use of it, because we don't see the abuse. But he taught us on a subject called shared freedom space. Shared freedom space. That doesn't just mean the space that's in here. On my way up here, I had a check to deposit. I had endorsed the check, but I hadn't filled out the deposit slip. And the bank was right on the same side of the street I was on. I was in a local area where ordinarily I would have been on the expressway, but due to repairs, my wife suggested, I said, I'm going to go to the bank right now since it's right here. And it's on the when we have to make a left turn, just pull right off and pull right back on and keep on. We did Juma in Memphis. So I pulled over into a parking spot. She was a little concerned. She said, you going to walk up? I said, no, but I got to fill out my form. And I don't want to be sitting in front of somebody sitting behind me waiting until I fill out my form. I'll fill out my form and then I get in line. Then I drive in line. That's shared freedom space. I don't want nobody in front of me trying to count their fingers and see how much they should, move on through. So practice your religion. Practice our religion everywhere we go. Not just sometime, there's a Muslim there, I better straighten up. No, all the time. All the time. Do you know that when we don't practice what we know about this religion, we are not being Muslim? Do you know that that's explained to us in the genome of the word Muslim? The root word Muslim, the DNA from the root word Muslim lets you know that you're not Muslim just because you say you're Muslim, and we are not Muslim all the time. But it's because, and so Allah backs it up and lets you know that He's all-forgiving, most merciful. If it wasn't for His mercy and His forgiveness, would none of us be here. That's how often we are not Muslims often enough. He said to the prophet that if he were to execute justice, it wouldn't be a single one of us on the face of the earth. So, but now that message, while we know that that's a message, a Quranic message from the prophet and so forth, but it's also in the very term Muslim. If we had studied its genetics to see how the term, what makes this term Muslim up. Muslim comes from the word salima. And salima means to escape from danger. So that's what a Muslim is, one who escapes from danger. But if you read like I read in the little books, they don't say a Muslim is one who escapes from danger. They say a Muslim is one who submits his will to the will of Allah. And so now here we are, we ain't seen Allah. Well, I got my will here, Allah. Because that is a non-physical activity. Submitting your will to the will of Allah is not physical in its essence. We have to do things physical, but the essence of it is internal, spiritual. All right? So, and that's how we escape from danger. So when they say a Muslim is one who submits his will to the will of Allah, that's not wrong. But what is the process? The process is obeying the laws governing our creation. So whereas we are created human beings, we have to abide by the law of gravity. I'm just giving you one law, the law of gravity. The bird is created by Allah also, but he does not have to abide by the same limitations that the law of gravity places on us. He can fly out of a 50 floor window and keep on flying. And you go out there without some support, you see, and you will be twittered, micro-twittered. And whoever is following you will be twittered also, if they physically follow you. Because you have to abide by the law governing. Now that's one law. There are laws governing not only our physical creation as far as the gravity is concerned, but even our thinking. Do you know that there are things that affect our thinking the same way that